The non-stop pace of the PSA Hi-Tech Super Series continuing as the top pros land in the one and only Hong Kong. The Cathay Pacific Squash Open is one of the long-standing highlights of the tour. The local organisers providing superb facilities in controlled surroundings, a far cry from the last stop outside the pyramids of Egypt. The top pros look forward to this one, and since that Egyptian event they've been busy, so let's remind ourselves of the current world rankings. The top four, as you can see, breaking away on their own in terms of points, but Del Harris and David Palmer moving up into the top 8. And in the next 8, it's a real scrabble for positions. Anthony Hill, long-time top 8 player, slipping further to allow the new kids on the block, John White, Thierry Lancau, Paul Price and Nick Taylor, to move up. Well, in the scrap for dollars and points, it's been a surprise start to this event for that man Ahmed Barada, finalist in Egypt, but out in round 1 here in Hong Kong. A surprise knockout and a chance loss for the world number 3 to close on his biggest rival, this man, Peter Nicol, opening up his largest points gap ever at the top of the table this season. After a string of victories over the man who's been the thorn in his side, the mercurial Canadian Jonathan Power. This event will be a test of fitness for him after he was knocked over and out in his physical semi-final clash with Barada in Egypt. And the top stars have plenty of other things to worry about as a new wave of talent hits Hong Kong. Australian Stuart Boswell through to a Super Series quarter-final for the first time ever. But he'll now take on world number 6, Paul Johnson. And with the Englishman rising back to form this year, this may be as far as he gets. And another Englishman we haven't seen for a while, world number 16, Mark Challoner, also through to the quarter-finals. But he'll now have to face world number 1, Nicol. The most improving Englishman in the last 12 months must be Simon Park, firmly established now at world number 4, through to the quarter-finals here, as is John White, the Aussie, now representing Scotland, who's rising through the ranks very quickly. And here again impressing as he takes on Jonathan Power in his quarter-final. And it's another Aussie and another newcomer, Anthony Ricketts, who's knocked out Del Harris to book himself a place against Simon Park in the quarters. So, young blood versus top experience, bringing great surprises, as Stuart Boswell comes through against Johnson. And even more surprisingly, Ricketts puts out Park 15-11, 15-11, 15-9. The seeds toppling then like 9 pins as our Aussie boy wonders roll on to give our semis a very different look indeed. There's no telling what might happen now as we go to the first of our semis, and a very confident Anthony Ricketts versus a possibly off-form Jonathan Power. Is it going to be Australian commitment versus Canadian indifference? Well, the Power here, despite treatment for a knee injury incurred in that last match with Barada in Egypt. And after coming through without much difficulty in his matches, the quarter-final being a real test for him, but he's in very little doubt about what he's got to do against his opponent.
He works really hard and he's fit, and he's obviously young and fired up and eager to sort of get a big win, but yeah, I think if I play well, I think I'll be in charge of the match from the beginning. But if I give him a little bit of a sniff, then it's going to be a tough match. Hopefully getting a chance to play Pete in this tournament, we haven't played in a while, and yeah, it'd be a good opportunity to sort of get a chance to maybe get him back.
But he might have one more difficult hurdle than he thinks before he gets to that final. His rival, a young Aussie who represents the new look of the talent coming from a country that's delivered some great players in the past. And he's a young man not overawed by his performance so far, but brimming with self-confidence.
In the game, it wasn't the best game I've ever played or anything like that. I was a bit nervous, and first time I played Simon as well. But I don't think I settled down as much as I'd like to. There's a few sort of stopping, starting, sort of pushing a little bit. That was just my nerves coming through, I think. But now getting through that takes the pressure off. I think just relax into it a bit more and hopefully go one more up again tonight. Yeah. If I was to win tonight, then I'd beat the world number 2. and I'd love just to take on the world number one. I mean, obviously I'd like, you know, Shuey to have a win as well, but I mean, if I'm going to beat the world number two, then why not have a go at the world number one in the final? Yeah.
Well, everyone awaiting what should be an interesting match. But first, just a word with a man who's already suffered the particular difficulties of playing at this location. He now tells us about the world number 5, Martin Heath.
Jet lag obviously affects us quite a lot when we come here. Some of the players decide not to change at all. I myself, what do? I don't think I've got a plan. Usually the matches are around about between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night, so it's not a problem sleeping in too late. The only problem with that is that you miss the beautiful breakfast at the Renaissance Hotel. Obviously it's incredibly humid here. We do play in air-conditioned courts, but it is actually quite difficult when you're walking around. So we try not to walk around during the tournament anyway. We try just to limit our movements as much as possible, which is quite difficult because there are so many things to see, so many beautiful markets and things to buy. So sometimes even going out early in the tournament like I did this year, it's not such a bad thing. So I'm going to enjoy myself, and I hope you enjoy the games as well.
Well, we certainly will. Better luck next time, Martin. Match action coming up next. Welcome back to Hong Kong. Straight to our first semi-final, and stand by for fireworks. As we now go courtside with our commentators, the voice of squash himself, Robert Edwards, assisted by the former world number 2, Australian Chris Robertson, who will be glad to see this young man here in this semi-final.
Best of 5 games, Ricketts Irving, Lavon.
So what a moment for this young man. Anthony Ricketts came here, had to perform as a qualifier, has fought his way through this tournament, already having beaten 3 world top 10 men. And finally, in the semi-final, waiting for him, the very recognizable Jonathan Power, wearing the headband. And what a player to be waiting for you, Robbo.
Well, I think Anthony would be high as a kite at the moment anyway, Robert. He's either got John Power or Peter Nicol. He can't keep beating these top 10 players without coming up against one of the top 2, but he's had a fantastic tournament so far, and a new breed of Australian products. It's got to be good for the game.
Yep, another fine product to come out of Australia, and specifically from the Institute of Sport, and I believe working very closely with the great Rodney Martin, an ex-world champion. He's here looking after his charges. But although to our viewers they might not recognize Anthony Ricketts, let me tell you that for a number of years now, for a while, he's been performing on the world circuit and really has done a great job. You don't beat the likes of Del Harris from Two Love down and come through unless you've got not just a talent, you also have to have a gutsy background. He's done his apprenticeship, and maybe we're seeing a man moving into the next levels. I hope so. He'd be a fine addition to the top level.
Well, I've seen quite a bit of him as well, Robert, and I endorse everything you said, but also he did knock off Simon Park, the world number 4, 3 Love, and I can't remember the last time Simon Park lost 3 Love to anybody ranked probably outside the top 10 in the world. So this young guy is playing some good squash. He's very aggressive, likes to play his shots, as we can see here from this rally. Very temperamental at times, and he's just produced a lovely forehand trickle post. And obviously that's Rodney Martin's influence, because I was on the receiving end of them for a few years, and I never got halfway near him either.
Shows his confidence levels as well. I suppose if you've made the semi and you've beaten 3 top 10 men, what have you got to be frightened of?
Well, this is right. He's absolutely riding high at the moment. He's obviously playing good squash. He's seen the ball like a basketball, and he's 5-3 up against the world number 2. And he is of a breed and a confidence level that he will think this could be his day, Robert. There's no two ways about that. He has a lot of confidence. Rodney Martin is very confident as a person and a coach and as a player. I'm sure he would have had Anthony pumped up to the hilt here. But he's got to contend with the class of this Canadian, and he can't afford to give him too many short balls and too many opportunities to show his talents.
And the score. Anthony Ricketts continuing his fine run and leading here 6-4 in the first game. Jonathan Power has also beaten a couple of players on his way here. David Palmer, who's been one of the sensations of the last 12 months on the PSA Tour. And a phenomenal match, probably the match of the tournaments against John White of Scotland, Scottish number 3, would you believe? Behind Peter Nicol and Martin Heath. What an array of talent they have these days. That, I gather, was, up until now, the match of the tournament, certainly in my eyes. But what have we got here?
Well,
The makings.
well, sorry to interrupt, Robert, but this is probably the longest rally of the match so far, and both these players certainly don't want to waste the energy on too many squash shirts here. I mean, they really are looking to get the ball forward. The court's playing quite true, not a lot of bounce in the front corners, and both these players obviously are going to play their shots here, and who's going to do them the best at each available time.
Technical question here for you, Robert. You've played here many, many times. The humidity, a major problem?
No, certainly very well air conditioned inside. I mean, certainly if you're walking around all day in Hong Kong, it's an issue, but the air conditioning in there would be so good that heat is certainly not an issue, and you can see by the bounce of the ball here and the conditions in there, you could be anywhere in Europe. But again, both players, Robert, looking to get in front. As soon as half an opportunity comes, the volley's going short, and there's going to be a lot of fireworks from these two guys around the middle.
I love the attitude of young Ricketts. He's a fearless young gladiator. He's hungry to do well, and trickle boast on the backhand side.
Well, we've seen one on the forehand, we've seen one on the backhand, and dear oh dear, that does look like Rodney Martin's influence. And he's got to be smiling when he's sitting in the seat when he sees that.
Well, one who isn't smiling is Jonathan Power. Didn't seem too happy about that at all. He's the man with the bag of tricks, normally. And repays the compliment to Anthony Ricketts. And now 6-9, first game. 3 points separating these guys. And Jonathan, never one to look terribly happy. Giving the referee a withering glance there. This tournament named by most of the players as one of, if not the most popular tournament on the tour. The longest running high-tech Super Series event with PSA.
10-6.
Another mistake there, Robert, from Jonathan from the back, trying to play that drop shot that he does so well. At 10-6, it has to be said, this young guy looks very comfortable. And if he takes his first game, we're talking about the temperament coming into play. He's not happy. He's got a bad hand, and he's got a bad head at the moment.
Well, he didn't come here too happy. He came, of course, from Al Aram, where he had to pull out playing against Ahmed Barada. Complained about his leg, complained about Barada, and didn't seem to be a happy man arriving here, but he's got through to the semi-final, so you don't get there unless you're fairly fit, in all honesty. And Anthony still putting in a big one. How he'd like to take this first game.
And he's just forcing John to play shots that maybe he wouldn't choose to do at this stage of a major semi-final. He's trying to chase the game a little bit. And obviously for Anthony, if he can take this first game, that's really going to settle him down, albeit nerves don't seem to be playing a great role at the moment in his outlook.
In fairness, I don't think he, in his wildest dreams, expected to find Anthony Ricketts waiting for him in the semi-final. And I think that's another compliment to the depth and the strength within the PSA Tour.
And now 7-12.
There in the centre, Gwaine Bryars, Executive Director of PSA, obviously relishing this, an ex-world number 4 himself.
We just saw an example there of Ricketts getting a little bit too carried away there, Robert, boasting too many balls to the front too soon. But then he responds with a lovely cross-court flick, backhand drop shot.
Well, Anthony's serving now. We're going to find out if he can squeeze this game out. He'd dearly love to take the first game against such an illustrious opponent. But there, Terrific drop volley from Jonathan.
Out. 8,
And Anthony will do well to remember, you don't get to world's number 2 without a huge ability of your own. And he will, well, there's a stroke. He'll be wanting to get on a run himself, Jonathan, to come back at this young Australian. 9-13, 4 points. And really, you should be looking for Anthony to put this game away, Robbo.
Well, 13-7. You would think that Jonathan would have to do something quite miraculous to get out of it. And certainly, he's doing a fair bit of digging at the moment. Both players working hard at the front of the court. Ball not bouncing a lot. Oh,
There's another stroke.
a little bit of inexperience there.
13.
Didn't need to try and whack that one straight, Robert. Could have gone cross court, got himself out of that corner and back on the middle of the court on tee.
And of course, we have to remember that this is the biggest match in the life of Anthony Ricketts. He's never made anything like a semi-final of a major event, a high-tech Super Series event. So he's in new grounds for him. This is not a practice. This is not a small tournament. This is the big one. Well, it's a fierce rally.
Wow, this is a great rally. Both players showing a lot of desperation.
Now interesting decision here from Chris Clark. He gives a no-let.
11.
Yeah, that's a good call. Anthony Ricketts did not have a clue where that ball was going. I'm still think he'd be looking at it and he can't work it out how it got there, but great movement from both players, and all of a sudden that's 4 points in a row from the Canadian, and Ricketts is going to start thinking, hold on here, I thought I had this game won.
It casts doubts, and you don't need doubts when you're out there. You've got to be totally clear, and I'm sure that Rodney Martin is going to be pumping himself up, ready to get hold of this young man between games and get information into him, some water.
Well, this is nice to see there, Robert. He settled down a little bit here. He wanted to rally up and down the backhand wall just to calm himself down, but just a little bit too loose, and to be fair to John, he's putting the shots away now.
White box.
And it's come right back. It's 12-13, just 1 point separating them. We did say he's got the talent.
Oh, it'll be so good for the game if the young Australian can sneak this first one, though, Robert. I really think it would set his confidence level to a new high, and it would force Jonathan to dig deep. There's nothing better to see a great player having to dig deep and deal with the new kid on the block as such.
Well, he's a new kid, certainly, but my goodness me, he's strong. Del Harris's comment after his match was how strong he was. That's all he spoke about. And then, of course, to follow that with a win against Simon Park.
Power.
A dangerous player,
13,
Anthony Ricketts.
4.
And now starting to fulfill what a lot of people have believed in him.
Left box.
But it's 13-all. And Jonathan Power seems to have got this game by the scruff of the neck again. He's back in. Anthony, a big man to be running around.
Yes, let. 13 all.
A bit of a charge in the back there. Ricketts didn't even blink. It's a nice Australian quality that we don't all have.
Yes, you could.
No net.
He wouldn't look at a place on a rugby pitch, would he? Tough boy.
14.
Well, he's game ball down now, and such a shame for this young guy. Would love to see him win this first game. He's played the better squash for the majority of it.
Down.
Oh, and that trickle gives the
15, 13.
first game to Jonathan Power, and I think Anthony Ricketts is going to be wondering about what he did here. How did that one slip away?
Well, we've got a couple of examples here of the shot-making ability of this young Australian. He lost the game, but he showed a lot of inventiveness and a lot of technical work at the front. Here we're going to see the forehand triple boast. He's showing John the straight. He's held him straight, and he's turned the racket around very quickly. Nowhere near that one. And then the confidence goes from forehand to backhand this time. Again, nice bit of patience. Got to set up your forward position. You can't play these shots from all over the court. You have to earn the right. Again, he plays it down the wall, holding tee position. John decides to take him forward. He's quickly on the ball, shows him cross court, turns the racket around. Great shot.
By 1 game to love. A all.
Well, they've had 2 minutes to prepare themselves. Anthony Ricketts to look back on that
Now
game.
it's almost done, yeah.
Jonathan Powers into verbal mode.
Because he threw my concentration off.
One out, one love.
Wow, fiery start, Rob. Anyway, I think the bottom line being Anthony's 1-0 up. But again, young Australian showing his intention. Backhand volley off the return of serve short. I don't think he's going to change his aggressive outlook, and I think that makes good sense because he played quite well the first game, just lost his way towards the back end, and experience should help him overcome that next time.
Yeah, he'll have learned from that. This is going to be a huge learning curve, this semi for him. And little gesticulation there from Anthony, his arms going up in the air. And these two players could start to test the referee, Chris Clark. Chris, based here in Hong Kong. And the crowd quiet now. They know their squash here in Hong Kong. This tournament, as I say, is the longest running high-tech PSA Super Series event on the calendar. So they're used to top players and the top men, even from your era, Robbo.
Well, we're going way back now, Robert, but it's been around a long time and seen a lot of quality players and a lot of good matches, and it's so pleasing to see some new, fresh people involved in the semi-finals. Also pleasing to see they're Australian as well, but from the viewpoint of Anthony Ricketts, he's certainly doing himself justice, and nice to see him win a long rally. Maybe too many short rallies in the first game, and he does need to get the mix right, Robert.
Yes, it's the balance of shots that with you top players, Robbo. That's what makes it. And Jonathan, as usual.
Well, it's funny how the shoelaces need to be done after the long rally. I don't see too many shoelaces done after short rallies, but
a little assistance, but I don't think that's going down big with Anthony Ricketts. Jonathan, I think, is saying with my hand bandaged, I can't do my laces up.
Well, at least you've seen the funny side of it.
Well done. Well, hang around because I'll need a shower later and I might need a help there.
2-1.
Light-hearted entertainment, but now back to the serious business. 2-1, Anthony Ricketts, and that one's so tight to the wall.
2-all.
2-all now. Gallery full of smiling faces, enjoying this.
3-2.
And again, that quick turnover of points. I mean, it's all well and good, Robert, when it's working for you, but he can't afford, again, another drive straight. Just got to slow himself down a little bit here and get some rhythm back in his swing and his thought processes, because at the moment it's gone away from him a little bit too quickly for his liking, and certainly for his coach Rodney Martin's liking.
Well, the hand up there from Ricketts. He doesn't think that ball was good from Power. And finally he gets the point. John Power into his back, but he holds him off and he plays a great straight drop on the right. Tough boy, this.
Well, he holds the tee very well, Robert, doesn't he? He doesn't want to move off the tee. He holds it, he's aggressive. He's obviously very talented. There's that triple boast, but experience there from Jonathan. You read it.
That's the danger, of course, with this trickle. If you do it, you do commit yourself. And now Ricketts in there pushing,
Wow.
picking up the stroke from Chris Clark.
Well, there's obviously a bit of fishing going on in Australia. And he made a lot of that, and he got the decision.
Well, trouble with the laces, trouble with the score. And a quizzical look there from Jonathan again. Anthony holds that ball well, but now it's the Canadian who's got his hand up appealing, and I'm sure there's going to be word share.
Threw me down on my shot there. I'll watch. 5-4. In the middle, when he goes the wrong way.
Again, talk of going the wrong way, a bit of physical push in. I don't think Anthony Ricketts will back off for anybody. But there, John Power shows his class. A little bit of concentration lapse there and just cuts it cross-court short.
Well, in the years I've been involved with the game, I've never seen many Australians who will back off. And he's a powerful boy, a lot of the Chris Dittmar physical about him.
Well, he's certainly come through some hard matches and he looks full of running, but he is struggling a little bit in his front corners at the moment. Not physically, but he's trying to play difficulty type shots when really he just needs a lift or a lob, something defensive, get himself out of there and start back up again. That's a little bit better.
This is that change of pace we've talked about and choice of shots. But
It wasn't good enough though, Robert. He tried to do the backhand lob. It wasn't good enough, but at least the intention to be defensive is there, because if you're playing the world number 2 and his racket work is as good as John Powers is, you can't tell me you're not going to be in defensive mode sometimes.
And a combination of both from the two of them, but it's the Australian who comes out the victor on it. Two different styles.
Well, it's a trickle boast again. Obviously he's going to play a straight drive as a variation. I don't know if there's many players that work on that variation, but John Powers not reading the forehand trickle boast well at all, so I think he'll keep playing it.
And now boys using the wall. Great width, looking for a mistake. Bit of patience. Great camera angle there. And hands up from Ricketts. There's a telephone gone off. And well, interesting, Robbo. Marcus laughing, crowd's laughing, the players aren't too joyed.
Well, it's all a bit of a mess, but the bottom line being it probably wasn't a stroke anyway, so you'll have to earn it another way.
Justice is done. But these telephones of today, they are a problem with athletes in many sports, not just squash.
We've just seen the game get a little bit of structure now, Robert. We've seen a little bit more alley work. Again, a lob from Ricketts, certainly a variety. Not too many of them going on.
Great power from him there to get a length off that ball. But the one he needed, the soft drop, he's missed it.
Well, I think he was a little bit too preoccupied where Jonathan Power was on his backswing, tried to block him out there a little bit and play the drop, and forgot to hit it.
Big mistake, and it's 9-5 Power. He's been in the wars, Jonathan Power. Left hand is bandaged. Left Alaram with a leg injury.
6-9.
Well,
we're used to these histrionics now. They're typical Jonathan Power style.
Well, the problem with that one, Robert, is there's no real validity. He hit it straight back at himself, and oh, lovely.
That's how to hold your body.
He tried to do that before, just hold Jonathan out and play the correct shot, and that time he did it spot on.
That's brought him back to 7-9, and Power
8-9.
finds the bottom of the tin, and it's just 1 point between them now. Ricketts hopefully has forgotten what happened in the last game, and he's going to be pushing hard here. Well, Ricketts says that is a lie. Chris Clark is not looking a happy man, and his markers have a little joyful smile.
I didn't swing at the ball, Chris. I didn't swing.
Okay, play left, play left.
Now there's a change here. And
well,
What are you doing?
I think he's talked his way into that one.
I think this is the time for the referee to get strong here. He's got to lay the law down. Come on, referee. Well, these comments are pathetic. Have got to be stamped on. Not acceptable.
Well, I think we see a little bit of Jonathan Power influence there on the referee. Ricketts did a fine serve. From what I saw, he tried to play the ball and then got away with it, and now look, he wins the point. He's 10-8 up.
And it could be argued a little indecision there from the high chair has caused frustration for the players. But the game now has changed pace. Terrific cross-court flick from Ricketts.
And I think the crowd have signalled who they would like to win, Robert.
9-10.
9-10, and the underdog has got a huge following here today. Oh, and you feel them, the disappointment welling out of them.
Well, I think he let the emotion of the crowd and the situation get on him on that one, Robert. Pretty unrealistic shot, but he'll learn. He's certainly doing himself a lot of justice at the moment.
Out.
That ball out of court.
10-11.
That ball was good.
Well, Jonathan conducting events as usual. Ricketts has got to learn to stay out of these talks and just get on with his squash. And now, oh, counter drop misses. Jonathan takes a 2-point lead at a crucial stage of this game.
He's had opportunities, Robert. He's just not completed the correct shot. And again, it's got to be encouraging for him, the fact that he's able to compete so well with this world number 2.
Well, that trickle boast and his body in the way was an ugly shot from him. And it's cost him a 3-point gap. It's 13-10 Jonathan Power. And that one to the wall gives him a game point. Game ball.
Game ball.
And 2 down to this man will be a disaster for him. Really has to pull something out of the bag here, Ricketts, and that's not the way. It's Jonathan Power 2-love up in this semi-final and starting to look as though he's got the motor in top gear.
Well, part of Ricketts' success has been being very aggressive with his shot play, but also part of his downfall is that he's playing him at the wrong time. Here, 10-11, quickly gets on the drop, but he snatches at it. Again, another situation where he's got to try and play each ball as it comes. Tries to play a fancy half volley trickle boast, comes back at himself, and that's a stroke. And then on game ball down, again, inexperienced. He needs to keep the rallies going. He needs to play hard and tough off the back wall. He just pushes the boast. Get a good length here. We'll see it. Comes back down the wall. Only the second shot, third shot of the rally. Not a long time, and he just pushes the boast. Doesn't need to do that.
Well, Anthony couldn't have a better man in his corner. That's Rodney Martin, ex-world champion, and now working for the Institute in Brisbane, Australia, looking after one of his charges. Good to have him back on the tour.
Well, the crowd fascinated by this one as we come back shortly after the start of Game 3 to Robert Edwards and Chris Robertson.
4-2.
Another fine start by Anthony Ricketts, 4-2 up in this third game, and he's going to have to produce some special goods here, because 2-love down against the world's number 2 is not the position he wants to be in, but that's the sort of game that's got him to this semi-final, and if he can produce that, he can come back.
Wow, what a lovely sequence of drop shots there, Robert. Held him, put him in, put it back in again, and then down the line.
Whatever happens in the latter stages of this Cathay Pacific Squash Open here in Hong Kong, we have a new star, and his name is Anthony Ricketts.
Wow, the star quality, Robert, comes from the style of squash he plays as well. Very adventurous, a few different shots, and a lot of determination and physical quality about him, which really is a great addition.
Oh, dramatic dive from the Canadian.
And don't forget, we still got Jonathan Power and all that comes with him.
6-2.
Well, I certainly would have given it good sort of artistic marks, but the end result was not what he looked for because he didn't get it.
Well, the bandana's back in place. We've had it all from this man.
And we seem to forget here now as well, Robert, that it's got a 6-2 lead, and he had a big lead in the first game. He pulled even at about 10-11 in the second, so... But just when he gets his nose in front, a couple of errors start creeping in.
6. No, 6.
The player's making absolutely certain that the score is right, and it is. Jonathan Power serving 3-6.
And we saw Rodney Martin talking to him between games there, Robert, and I feel very confident that Rodney would tell him to remain aggressive, keep playing his shots, but just pick the right time. Don't get ahead of yourself, because obviously his style of game is causing a lot of problems for John. He's winning a lot of free points.
And this is a good rally. And again, Ricketts showing some real competitive spirit.
That's gotta be my point.
Play let. No,
Okay.
Yes, let.
Let's do a scenario. I hit a bad shot in the middle, and I go clear, boom, and what happens to me? That's what happened.
Let ball 3-6.
Wow.
Well, not a great example of what you might do.
Play on, please. Come on. Play on. 3-6. Play on.
Nobody's going to lose a point here, but
Well, I'm not sure what went on there, but
pantomime, that's what went on, Robbo.
I think there was a bit of interference from Ricketts, and John Power wasn't happy and he wanted a stroke, but I think clearly it's a mess and he needs to play a let. But again, is his concentration been taken away by the very clever Canadian?
I think he should have kept out of it, Ricketts. Stayed quiet and just got on with it. But they're back to what they do well, and this is another good rally building. And Anthony needs to put himself back in. That was a terrific counter drop, and Jonathan Powell wasn't on it.
7-4.
Well, the reason that was so good, Robert, is that a few rallies before we saw the winner down the line, and then he was able to create the same situation again and play the counter drop.
No net. And out. 5-7.
And Jonathan turning immediately looking to the referee.
I can't barge. If I could do it, then it'd be fair. But I can't do it.
Now he's complaining that Anthony has gone into his back when he's played the drop.
Well, I think that's harsh, Robert. I think Anthony was making a big attempt to get towards the ball, realised he couldn't get it and had to stop. And again, I don't think it's any fairer if the other person can do it or not with a bad hand. It's Jonathan's problem.
And out. Right in front of him.
Well, I think that's a fine decision. There's nothing wrong with that. I think this is just Jonathan pumping himself up. That was definitely a stroke.
I think this is all credit to Anthony Ricketts as well. I think Jonathan feels under a lot of pressure here, Robert. I know he's 2-love up, but these type of shots
Well, both players seemingly very unhappy with the decision. Ricketts had certainly had Jonathan Power all over the shop. And that Australian accent says it all.
Don't worry, just relax and call it how you think. Don't worry about it.
Well, he's telling the referee how he should do it. Feels that Jonathan is having an influence on Chris Clark.
Well, certainly it's not a case of pay full respect to the world number 2 because I shouldn't be here type of attitude. And I tell you, that's a very refreshing way to approach it. And he's put in a great performance here, and I think he fully deserves a game at least.
That backswing impeded, and with it, the stroke goes out. And I agree with you, Ro. I'd like to see this young man from Australia get a game. He would deserve it. The crowd are enjoying it, and it's good to see a new guy on the block.
No net. 7-8.
Just a little bit loose there on his drives. One straight, one cross court. Punished severely by the number 2 in the world, as you would expect it to be. Again, both players working the front backhand a lot of movement, a lot of energy and power in these bodies.
And again, I suspect Jonathan is going to have an opinion about this. He had his hand up.
Oh, it's clearly not a let, Robert. It's miles from it. He's called too early.
That ball spun so hard.
Well, he's telling the referee that the ball spun and he's had an injustice done to him. Never want to let an injustice go without a comment. But that's not up, and I think Anthony should have been a little stronger on that. He had a winning position. Now he really needs to get himself together.
Well, this is almost, Robert, where the last game he lost his way. He's got himself to 10 first. He's got a 2-point lead. Let's see if he can close it out this time.
It's been the story of the match up to now. Done so well to the latter stages, and then Jonathan's come back.
10-8.
It's a cheap call, Rob. I'm not sure what a cheap call is. I don't think it's a good one. It looked pretty routine to me.
Oh, and that's a great shot.
There's nothing cheap about that.
Hammered that one in.
I can't afford that one, and I'm sure you can't. That was a fantastic shot, and again, he produces those type of shots when he needs them.
Well, that's what makes him the world's number 2 player. 9-10 now. Jonathan Power back within a point, and he's diving. He's fighting for this.
Oh, please tell me why Anthony hit the ball back cross court to Power then, Robert. Head straight down the line.
Bad choice of shot. Maybe a little bit of inexperience, but he's still fierce. He's still fighting. He's still pumping that ball to the back. And there the drop.
Against net.
Can we get the floor clean, please?
Well, of course,
9, 10.
during that rally, Jonathan dived and there'll be sweat on the floor. The crowd showing their appreciation for a very skillful rally. Difference between winning and losing, minute.
Again, good early volley there from Ricketts. Cut it across court short, and this court really is very severe at the front.
Now Anthony has got to build on this. He's 11-9 up.
There came that trickle again.
And out.
Well, it's the McEnroe.
10,
You've got to be
11.
joking coming out again.
I tell you what, he's a lot fitter than I thought he was, because he's doing a lot of talking and running around at the same time. And we all know that's not easy, but what a good length.
Yeah.
Good length, not a lot of talk needed there.
And again, he's closed that gap at a vital stage. In the 2 previous games, Ricketts has managed to build a lead. And again, Jonathan has pulled it back. Now the trickle,
Net and out.
no let. And again, Ricketts goes in 12-11.
Well, I think we've got the new shot here. Everybody at home must realise that forehand and backhand trickle both, if played at the right time, is very successful. And this young Australian certainly has got it down to a T.
He's given us a few fine demonstrations, and
12 all.
But too many of them.
straight back. Jonathan Power from Toronto, Canada. Terrific length. That's the second case we've seen that in the last few points.
13,
Flicks the
12.
ball to a perfect length and picks up another point to go 13-12. And is he again going to do what he's done in the 2 previous games? Just cruise past at the right time. Surely a stroke.
Stroke to Power.
Yes, it is. And it's 14-12.
Match ball.
Jonathan Power on match ball to go into, I think, what will be his 4th Hong Kong Open final, and he's there. Jonathan Power goes through, but we've seen the start of a new career. Anthony Ricketts, listen out for that young guy.
Well, we saw a lot of attacking squash from both players in this match. Lots of front court angles, trickle boast, but John Power, the world number 2, he did show at 11-all in the 3rd game, you get a lot of value from hitting good length. Look at the use of the wrist there. Look at the angle. Catches the side nick, and that's too good for Ricketts. That's a big point. And the second situation, same type of shot, played from a bit straighter, but again, it's important to understand that if you get a good length, it's difficult to return it back. Here we see Power using the wrist to take the rally down the wall. Ricketts steps forward, puts a good short ball in, not great, but look at the use of the wrist. Straight ball. Ricketts has gone cross court. It's dying, it's going away all the time. Game over.
It didn't go well. I just didn't have it mentally today. I didn't feel like warming up before the match. I didn't even feel like getting into it at the beginning, and I was just so lackadaisical. My mind is all over the place with my torn ligaments in my hand, and I just fighting myself the whole way through. I just couldn't move and had a tough game today mentally. I don't know how I got through that. I think he just collapsed because really he should have won on a day like today.
I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't stick to my game plan at times. I think I got caught up in playing silly shots and getting sort of wrapped up in the way he tries to sort of play the game. But I think I've learned a lot from that. If I can have a look at the video after when I get back to Australia, then I'm sure I can get many things out of that. Yeah.
So there's one young man who'll leave this city with great memories, and we'll bring you the other semi and the finals this week at one of the great events on the Hi-Tech Super Series, a great event in a great city. It's the one and only Cathay Pacific Squash Open, one of the greatest events on the tour for a number of years, and we're building to the climax of the final. Last week we brought you the first semi, now we're going on to the second semi, and that was to be a clash between the world number 1 Peter Nicol, the Scotsman on top form this year, Jonathan Power, coming through against the young Australian Anthony Ricketts in his semi-final, but it's another young Australian, Stuart Boswell, who will take on the world number 1. Well, not many people had heard of him before he got here, but there's plenty have heard about him now, including a number of top players. Number 11 seed Graham Riding from Canada, out in round 1. Ahmed Barada, world number 3, out in round 2. And Paul Johnson, world number 6, his final scalp in the quarterfinals. Well, he's certainly looking forward to maybe one more scalp.
Yeah, well, Peter's obviously the number 1 player in the world, and he has been for a while now. He's the most consistent player, so just hopefully play right and give it the best shot.
And he certainly will have to give it his best shot if he's to try and unnerve this man. Peter Nicol on the best form for a number of years. The scorecard says he's been taken to 4 in every round, but it's been more relaxed than that. And Peter Nicol won't take his young challenger lightly, that's for sure.
I've seen him play, I've played him a couple of times, and I know how good he is. It's just he's never actually performed and never got to the latter stages of tournaments, and this is the first time he's done that. But talent-wise, ability, he's definitely good enough. It's just a case of but mentally, and this is the first time he's actually achieved it. But expect to see him there a lot more often, a lot more. But don't expect him to see him in the final tomorrow.
Well, confident predictions from the Scot as usual. Time to see if he lives up to them with our commentators for the match. The voice of squash himself, Robert Edwards, assisted by former world number 2, Chris Robertson.
6-12.
Peter Nicol, the world's number 1, with, for him, not his normal opponent at the semi-final stage, Stuart Boswell.
13-6.
Stuart Boswell there from Australia, like his best friend, like his roommate, Anthony Ricketts. This has been his greatest moment, his finest tournament. Again, through from qualification, he's gone all the way, and he's knocked out 3 top players to get to this stage to earn the right to play Peter Nicol.
7-13.
7-13, and he's played some great squash getting here. But Robbo, I wonder, has this young man left his best squash in his earlier rounds? Because it's been a magnificent effort from him.
Well, I certainly think it's asking too much for him to take Peter Nicol the distance, Robert. I do think he'll want to put in a good solid performance and feel comfortable, but surely victory's too far for him.
He's been on the circuit now for some time. Another wonderful talent out of Australia, out of the Institute, and another one coached by Rodney Martin. And they're coming good at the same time. I don't know what those boys have been having for breakfast in their hotel, but they want to stay on it. They'll not forget this week in a hurry. But that drop,
And out.
too low, and it's 14-8.
14-8.
Peter Nicol on game ball. And that determined look from Peter Nicol. Obviously wants to squeeze this one out, save energy. He knows the danger of Stuart Boswell. Doesn't want him to get his tail up here. And what a player for Boswell to have to meet. But you've got to meet them if you get to semi-finals of big tournaments, and it's 9-14.
But Nicol going on to win game 1. We pick them up again in game 2.
So the all-conquering Peter Nicol, who's been in great form this year, comes here off the back of a win at Alahuam, playing some great squash, and here very much the ringmaster, controlling events, as you would expect from him. Robbo, Peter Nicol is like champagne, he just seems to get better and better.
Well, he's working on his game all the time, Robert. He's not resting on his laurels, and well, the success is there to see.
Well, whatever the result of this, Stuart Boswell has come of age. He's had a great tournament, and at the moment, he, in fairness, is being ravaged a little bit by the world's top player.
Well, he just moves him around in this rally. You can see he's controlling things. Look at that beautiful volley lob. Has to let it bounce. Quick boast. Quick drop. Just puts him down the line.
Well, let's hope that Stuart Boswell will use this tournament as a springboard to go on to greater things. It's 3-love Peter Nicol, and of course leading by 1 game to love. And it's starting to look odds on for him to go through to another final to defend his title.
I think you can also see here, Robert, that Peter's playing at maybe a slower pace than he may normally do against other players. Boswell likes to play fast, lots of volleys. You can see Peter just controlling things, moving the ball around and then pushing it into the open spaces.
4 love.
Peter Nicol moving on to 7-4 in this second game. And characteristic Peter Nicol material here, standing on the tee, controlling the game, controlling Stuart Boswell. But I suspect a year or two down the road and we're going to be seeing young Mr. Boswell fighting at the very top level of squash, because he's got everything it takes.
Wonderful shot. Oh, look at this for the use of the lob. Defensive shot, but used in an attacking way.
Peter Nicol, 8-4 now, Scotsman. Some would say the flying Scotsman. Certainly at the moment, starting to dominate the world of PSA squash.
Well, I think his bank balance is flying, Robert.
And so it should. Nobody can wish any bad against this young man. Terrific player, great professional, and a man who it's a pleasure to spend time in his company.
It's a good rally there from Boswell, though. Good clinical finish.
Boswell will be learning from this experience, and it's been a fairly painful one for him up till now, but he can take great comfort from his earlier rounds. Qualification, 3 big matches, knocking out Graham Ryding, Ahmed Barada and Paul Johnson, all top 11 players, top World 11 status players.
And out.
And there's not much you can do about that.
11-6.
And Peter Nicol grinds on. He just seems to do everything so well. 14-10. This point to go 2-love up, and he's done it.
15-10.
He's through to the third, and he's taken a 2-love lead with him.
Stroke to Nicol, hand out. 3-1.
And Peter now with the final in his sights. But let's speak for a second about Stuart Boswell. Robbo, a fellow countryman of yours, and a great future.
Oh, him and Anthony Ricketts have been a revelation. Both very aggressive, both, well, Rodney Martin encouraged volleys of the ball, and I think he's played a solid match. Physically, he's backed up very well. But Peter, well, he's just been too good, kept the ball away from him. He finishes off with good drops.
4-1.
And what do you do against a man like Peter Nicol? There's no histrionics, there's no facial expressions, there's just good squash, terrific preparation, and a great all-round game.
Yeah, I think somebody like Stuart Boswell would probably learn ball control factor, Robert. You know, the use of the side walls, keeping it tight, and how he jumps on the ball at the last minute.
5-1.
Boswell now 5-10 down, but still out there, still putting in the effort. This boy, although we're seeing him for the first time on our big screen at this level, he's got a huge well of previous squash to draw on, junior level, right the way through qualification. So although new to us, I can tell you this boy has been on the circuit for some time. Stuart starting to look like a weary warrior, but he can take away from this tournament if he should lose. Great memories.
Well, the reason he's getting weary, Robert, is Peter's putting that backhand drop in time and time again.
14-7,
And
match ball.
after you chase it about 25 million times, you're going to get a bit tired.
Not like you to exaggerate, Robbo. And it's game ball, match ball for Peter Nicol to go into the final to meet Jonathan Power, waiting there for him. The old enmity, but it's delayed. Boswell stays in.
Well, I'm sure he didn't do that deliberately to keep him on court. It must have been just a slight miscue.
And it's still match ball, of course. And it's, I suspect, just a question of time now before Peter Nicol goes back into the final to defend his title here in Hong Kong. Yes, he's done it. They shake hands. Peter Nicol into a final, and Boswell, well, into a new great career.
Well, here we see typical Peter Nicol. Lots of control of pace. Both players contributing to the type of rallies which we don't see enough of nowadays. Good use of the volley lob and the volley drop there from both. Another lob there from Peter. Back on the tee. Stewart trying to buy time. Take each other up forward. Back cross deep. Good length again from the world champion. Volley lob again, this time from Peter Nicol. Volley drop from Boswell. Again, lots of energy around the middle, but not a lot of hard pace on the ball. Good precision across the court. The counter drop, again, defensive lob then from Nicol. Working hard all the time. Here we see the situation where he's finally got the lob, and look at that for the length on the volley.
Back to the Cathay Pacific Open, organised here in conjunction with the Leisure and Cultural Services Department of Hong Kong. And a fantastic job they do, and once again they're rewarded with a great final. It seems these two always meet here every year, and it's not always gone Nicol's way. But he's put all that behind him, and he's dominated Jonathan Power over the last 12 months. Easy enough ride through here, and he must be confident for this final once again, against a man who didn't show the greatest form in the semi-final. But that doesn't mean anything when you're dealing with Jonathan Power. When the pressure's on, he pulls it out of the bag, as he showed in his tough quarter-final. So despite the body language and the antics on court, he's always dangerous. Peter Nicol knows that. But it's a very friendly atmosphere backstage before they go on court, reminiscing over old matches. Plenty of smiles all round. It's a friendly tour indeed, until they step through the court door. Then it's down to the mental battle, as Australian Anthony Ricketts takes time out to explain.
I think when competing at any level in squash, definitely the main factor which is going to be the difference between winning and losing is being mentally in the right state. Things such as technique and your physical, your body and things like that, you can get by. I mean, if you're used to hitting with an unorthodox technique and you can hit the ball straight, then that's fine. But if you're a bit put off and things aren't, you're not in a good mood, then when you get caught up in a long match, tough physical thing, and your mind can just go to bits, and only takes 3 or 4 rallies for your opponent to get the better of you, and you can't concentrate on the main things which are going to win you the match.
And when it comes to mental concentration, these two have always had a battle of wills. Time to see how they get on this time with our match commentators once again, Robert Edwards and Chris Robertson.
Once again, these great rivals, Jonathan Power serving, the player with the bandana from Toronto in Canada, ranked 2 in the world, meets his illustrious opponent, Peter Nicol. Peter Nicol playing in the white and blue shirt. Of course, the world's #1 ranked player, defending champion here, and the man who really has dominated this fine game around the world over the last 12 months. And Robbo, if they both played to expectation, we could have quite a match.
Well, the expectation's always there when these two come head to head. Question marks over John Power's physical condition from Alaram. Also his fitness levels due to lack of playing and injuries. And also, has Peter Nicol gone to a new level? Very dominant and clearly the best player in the world at the moment by quite a distance, I think.
Yes, and we've said it before, we'll say it again. Totally contrasting personalities. You have Peter Nicol, quiet, reserved, gets on with his game. And of course, Jonathan, who's not diverse to a little verbal discussion on court. And a face made to show dissent when he wants to. A real character of the game, and so gifted, but also so prone to injury. Both players have pretty well sailed through. They've both had a couple of tough matches, particularly Jonathan Power in the quarters against John White. That was a huge match, but at least it showed us that his fitness should be there. Robbo?
Well, I think certainly for big matches and one-off occasions, it's there. It's whether or not he can back up Robert. It's also the quality of the rallies. Johnny White plays a lot of attacking, low hard type of shots and rallies. Peter Nicol, you can see by the start of this match, Robert, there's a lot of length, a lot of discipline, a lot of tightness. It's a different level. I'm not sure John Power's ready for this.
Well, the decision there from Fahim Gul. No let.
That's a good decision. Poor shot there from John Power through the middle. Peter turned his body, blocked him, hit it to open space.
And so typical of Peter Nicol. Just a glance at his opponent, straight into position, straight back to serve. And Peter Nicol, I think, seems to be saying, I'm going to make this very, very hard.
Well, that's always been his philosophy, Robert. When he comes in major finals, particularly against very talented players, particularly like Power, make it hard, set your intentions up. Lots of early activity across the middle as we see here now. Good length. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. And then you ask the questions and see if they come up with any answers.
And of course, Peter Nicol, a confirmed lover of this event, and why not? He does so well in it. 4 finals, reigning champion, very successful for him. Loves being in Hong Kong. This, one of his hobbies, is shopping, and he couldn't come to a better place. This, the other one, is winning tournaments, and he's quite good at that as well.
Oh, good rally from both players here. Good use of counter drops there from John. Still got that ability to hit the powerful wrist shot. Working that front left-hand corner. Peter's forehand, obviously being the lefty. And great finish.
Now that was classic Jonathan Power. Played with a degree of cut. Gently feathered the ball.
Yeah, this is vintage. Look at that. Uses that front corner. Gets the loose ball. Quick volley down the line. Peter's struggling. Always struggling. Nice open space drop.
Lovely smiling faces, enjoying their squash. So they should. 8-5, Peter Nicol. And this very, very typical of a Peter Nicol, Jonathan Power first game. Peter Nicol keeping the ball moving, playing the ball. Jonathan Power, bursts of quality, bursts of great shots, intermingled. But you always feel that Peter Nicol has got the can on the storm. The lid's firmly down.
We're seeing a lot more length and discipline from John as well, Robert, in this final. Different style of game, I understand that, but he's obviously trying to remain patient. He's trying to work the ball and hit the openings. But the longer that he plays these rallies, the more that the physical side's going to come into question. And I'm sure Peter Nicol will be very happy to see that side come in.
Well, that's right, but Jonathan onto that ball very quickly. And again feathers it into the other nick.
6-8.
Peter Nicol 10-7 now in this first game. 3-point gap. And he'll use that. We saw both of these players play two terrific newcomers at this level in the semi-finals. We saw the interest in their games, but this really is nitty-gritty stuff. They don't give anything away here, and three-point gap is going to take a bit of closing.
8-10.
And a little warning sign there for Peter from John. That backhand drop shot that he plays so successfully really is an area that he wins a lot of points and dominates people. And nice relief there for Peter. Get another point back, but I really do feel, Robert, that Jonathan Power's got to win this first game. I don't think with the things that have gone on in the last few weeks that he can come from one love down and beat this guy at the moment.
You have to question the physical side for Jonathan. And a little bit of the body language. I think the words were, "I am so bad." He sets himself very high standards, but he's come here from Al Ahram, where he went out in a very nasty injury on court with Barada. Very unhappy man. He's injured his hand since he's been here. And you never know with Jonathan just what you're going to get.
Well, I hope he's got some medical insurance, because those bills must be mounting up.
He certainly spends enough time with the physios and the doctors.
But again, Peter Nicol, Robert, just good solid play across the middle. He's used to the volley and the length. And again, what a wonderful angle he created on a straight ball there.
Right box.
Oh, that length and that depth was just perfection. And that's 13-8 Peter Nicol, and he's 2 points away from taking this first game in this Cathay Pacific Hong Kong Open. Wonderful venue, very experienced venue. And the lovely lady, Heather Dayton, who looks after these boys like they're her own children, makes it a special venue for them. Oh, this is delightful. Peter Nicol lifted that ball out of the air.
No let.
No let.
Box. 14-8.
And suddenly Power holds the hand as though it's in agony, touches the head.
Well, he was frustrated there, Robert, because he didn't see the middle of the court at all, apart from running through it very fast to get to the front. Oh,
what a response. That's the way to crunch them away, Jonathan. But even then, he's talking to himself. But it stays game ball to Peter Nicol, 14-9. And Jonathan's in a bit of trouble here, but it's Peter Nicol who tins.
10-14.
Well, you don't see that very often, Peter Nicol letting him off the hook. That's a good response from John, very positive. I think it might be a little bit too late though.
You don't see Peter Nicol letting people off once he's got a lead, and 14-10 is a big lead at this game.
Wow, it was a big turn in tempo, and the drive triple boast from the back of the court, and he certainly stepped up the pace.
But that's game ball to Peter Nicol. 14-11 to take this first game in this final match. And surely he's done it. No let from Fahim Gul. They're off court, and it's Peter Nicol. And he's got one game under his belt.
There's three examples here of what role length can play in winning big squash games. John on it nice and early. Look at that angle he got across Peter, and the length was too good. Good camera angle here. We see how tight it is from both players up and down the channel. Both cagey, both trying to look for the opening, the weakness. Look at that flick back cross court there from Peter Nicol. He puts John in a difficult position and forces him into a drop shot. And the last instance, well, we all want these shots when we play. Good tee control from Peter. John, good response. Peter, look at that, tight down the line. Good depth. And look at this for a length. Look how he catches the neck angle. Wonderful.
Nicol's leading 1-0. Love all.
Peter Nicol, Jonathan Power, their 2-minute respite, back on court now to renew the battle. Peter Nicol 1 game to love up in this final. And I think it's really a cat and mouse game here. It's a question of whether Peter Nicol can keep the pot on this man of great vim and steam, control him, frustrate him with this game of his, or will Jonathan Power break free and give him some problems of his own with his terrific talents? And Robbo, I suppose that's what we're looking for now.
I think from a spectator point of view, that's what everybody's looking for. I'm not sure we're going to get it though, Robert. All the signs have been so far that Peter Nicol has the answers. He has moved on in the last 12 months against John Power in terms of dealing with his trickery and his deception. And I'm not sure John Power looks as if the mental side of the game is handled very well today, but then he always has the ability to play shots that we all just dream of.
Lovely disguise and cut on that drop from him. And as you were saying earlier on, it's been a bit of a chain turnaround here, because there was a time when Jonathan looked as though he was starting to dominate Peter Nicol, but that's gone. The last year has seen Peter Nicol come back and truly dominate the whole world circuit.
2-1.
And he's done it with very few words and a great deal of good squash. Well, I mean, that was a great example of it. Probably a good decision from the referee, but it was a close call, and he didn't even utter one word of defiance against the referee. Well, to me, I'm not sure if he's human. And of course, the referee here is Fahim Gul, somebody I've long thought was a good referee. And said that, I hope he continues in that vein for this match. Can be the kiss of death sometimes to give somebody praise. You are right there, Robert. All the players have a lot of respect for Fahim. Played at a very high level himself, and he traditionally is a very good referee. Whether or not you put the curse on him, we'll have to wait and see. And this is a good start to this second game. Oh, terrific feather drop there from Peter Nicol. And Power's off. No, that's that good referee. I mean, Fahim's got that right.
Stop, please, stop.
He had access there, Robert. He tried to play Peter, what we call playing the man, not making the correct path to the ball. Do you know, I always feel, Robert, when you see Jonathan in a state like this, he looks so unhappy. He's looking at his hand. He's looking at the problems. He's wincing. He doesn't seem a happy man. I wonder if this body language is really the message he should be sending out to his opponent. Well, I think clearly it's not the message to be sent out, but when you're on there, Robert, and you're one love down, and Peter Nicol's moving you to every corner that the court has, those questions start coming into your mind, and it's for Jonathan to get him out. And again, we see a good use of the length there from Peter, this time on the backhand volley. And he really just starts the engine up and keeps it going, and it's up to Jonathan Power to find the answers. And it's 4-2 now, Peter Nicol, in this final. Defending champion Peter Nicol, world champion, world #1. Oh, good pick up a pace here though, Robert. This is a bit of aggression coming out, and Johnny decided to throw a little bit of caution. Now this sort of rally is the John Power we know. And Peter Nicol's meeting him in the middle. It's head to head, and this is great stuff. Best rally of the tournament for me, for this match certainly. Well, it could be the tournament, Robert. It hasn't finished yet. Still going. You're absolutely right. This is grand stuff. It's all there, and what a way for it to end. And there's a message there for John, I think. This is what he's got to do. He's got to take the game to Peter. He's got to dictate the pace. I think he's got to get in front. He's got to make things happen. And so far, it really has been all Nicol in that sense. That stroke, yes. The creativity of John Power is what's needed here. That rally, that long rally, was such a pleasure to watch, and so good, so well mixed, but so hurtful to both players' bodies.
No lead.
And now the histrionics. The racket is down. The appeal is in. It is, but I think he put the curse on the referee. I'm not sure about that one, Robert. I think there was a little bit of genuine contact.
6-3.
I think that was a little harsh. And it's 6-3. Jonathan Power wants to be careful doing that. He's already got one hand bandaged. And there's the mental response.
7-3.
That didn't seem to be the response he should have been putting in. Not against Peter Nicol. He's taken it on. The decision was debatable, but he's taken it on. Peter Nicol had a debatable one earlier on, and I think, won the next point straight after the rally. So, I mean, you've got the contrast in the two personalities, but again, we are seeing a little bit of induced pace here from the Canadian.
And that's surely too close to his body. Jonathan reacts, tries to catch the ball, holds his head, and I'm quite sure mentally is telling himself off. Tempted to give himself a whack on the leg, but changes his mind. He's got enough bandage on him already. And it's 8-3, Peter Nicol. And Jonathan Power just simply can't let Peter Nicol go 2-love up. He's got to find some answers. Oh, that's one of the answers. Oh my goodness me. And he's still talking about it.
The ball was good, Nicol. 4-8.
Peter thought maybe he'd clip the top of the tin, but I was saying, please don't take that one away from me. I haven't hit one for a while.
4-8 the score. A little bit more of that, please, Mr. Power.
Down.
Perfect length. Now, is it to come back?
5-8.
Well, they're two very, very solid points, aren't they? One short, one deep. And you can see he's in a hurry now. Johnny wants to get going. He feels he's getting into a little bit of rhythm here. And the pace has certainly stepped up.
I was about to say, Robbo, can he keep this pace up? Certainly it would favour Peter Nicol, but wow, if he can keep doing that, that looks good for him.
Oh, I think this type of pace is perfect for John. It's quick and it's fast and it's clinical. I don't think he likes the longer rallies, Robert. You know, the ones where you're sort of having to run for longer, but just as he gets going, he offers up a freebie right in the base of the tin.
And again, talking to himself.
Oh, wonderful straight ball there from Peter. Oh, another good get. Oh, he's taking the mick, yeah.
This is grand stuff. The spectators are having a ball now. Unbelievable drop from Jonathan. Peter tries but can't pick it up and immediately stops.
That's that cut feather drop that he plays so well. Really does look like he's going to drive that ball quite powerfully to the back and then just takes all the pace off it.
And the signs are here that when they're both playing well, we're having a really, really top-class match. But then the mistakes come in. Just seems to be broken up, but there's odd moments of genius here. Peter Nicol again controlling things, and Jonathan Power drops it into the tin, holds his head.
And again, well, you're right, Robert. There's two free points there. I mean, you don't usually see that from him. You have to wonder mentally how he's approaching that type of situation. Whatever way you look at it, it's a 4-point spread now, and up against it to get back into the second game.
And this terrific camera angle shows us Peter Nicol controlling the rally and ending with the result he wants, the ball going down. Jonathan looking at his racket, Francis, and again holding his head. I'm wondering if today is Mr. Power's day. Well, he'll be happy with that free one. Ball squirting across Peter Nicol for a stroke, and back in comes Jonathan Power, the magician. But are his tricks going to be good enough today?
Oh, well, Peter's developed a little bit of Jonathan's frailty here at the moment, Robert. A couple of quick, cheap points, and quick being the strangeness for Peter. Usually, after one mistake, he won't even go near the bottom of the tin, but then he says, I can flick a couple around as well.
13-9.
Lovely deception on the back end cross-court drop.
And that's taken it to 13-9 to the Scotsman. Jonathan attacking wide. Soft down with Power. Excuse the punt. Terrific stuff. But it looks to me like it's all Peter Nicol at the moment. He will not be denied. 14-9, and it's game ball to go 2-love up in this final. Jonathan goes for a cross-court nick. What a shot. Desperation. I wonder. It's 10-14. It stays game ball to Peter Nicol. Can Jonathan Power give us a few more fireworks in this game? Terrific boast there from him. Oh, top spin drop on the backhand. Unbelievably difficult, and it didn't work for him, and he's 2-love down. Peter Nicol, 2-love in this final here in Hong Kong.
We saw some clinical finishing in this second game from both players off the drops and the volleys. Look at this. Going to hit it hard. Comes underneath it and cuts it short. This time from Peter Nicol. Waits for it to come into him. Feathers it into the nick. That's a lovely shot. And here we see off the volley. A little bit more pace and direction. But still precision in on the back end, Nick.
So 2 minutes to prepare yourself to come back. If you're Jonathan Power with a 2-love deficit, and not a happy man sat there talking to Anthony Hill. The body language says it all, really. He's frustrated, he's annoyed, and I don't know what Anthony can say to him to get him back on track. Two good friends. And what a contrast. Peter Nicol, Mr. Calm, the iceberg of squash. And why not 2-love up? He knows he's on the right track. And who'd be more proud of him than his girlfriend there, Sally Leonard, on the left.
Nicol's leading by 2 games to love. Love all.
This third game, love all, and Jonathan has come back to court with some solid advice from Anthony Hill.
No let. No let.
One of his close friends, and immediately into confrontation.
Good decision there. No let from the referee. Didn't feel he was going to get that ball, so you can't have a let there, John.
Peter Nicol, exactly where he wants to be already, with the points on the board in this third game, and what he's hoping will be the final game. But not if he does that. Peter Nicol plays the boast, and the ball down. They're 1-all. Now, the people here in Hong Kong, they love their squash, and as much as they think of Peter Nicol as a son of this tournament, they'll want this to continue, to watch the two players at their best. 2-1 Jonathan Power. Interesting.
Yes, let.
I think that's a good decision there from him. He plays a let. He thinks he could have played the ball. If he's not sure, he's going to play a let.
2-1.
He wants a stroke. Peter wants a no let. Here we see it in the slow-mo. The ball gets in behind John. He probably could have played it, but we're not quite sure where. So we'll just play a let and restart it up again.
No doubt says a let, doesn't it, Rovo? Score 4-3. Peter Nicol. And he's almost on cruise control, but when Jonathan Power can do that, nobody can relax. Onto that, flicks it straight. 4-all.
And that's a situation where it's a no let, Robert. Peter, for once in a very long time, tries it on, and absolutely no chance of getting that one back.
Oh, terrific. He took that off the skin of the wall. Oh, Jonathan, look at that body language. What's he saying?
5-4.
I wish I hadn't got up today. And Peter Nicol, 5-4, inching his way towards this trophy. And terrific there. Jonathan Power holds the ball and then sends it the opposite direction.
Well, there's a couple of worrying signs here for Peter Nicol. There's been 2 instances already where he's gone completely the wrong way, and that's typical John Power work, Robert. A lot of heavy disguise, heavy deception. Peter just wants to make sure he doesn't get caught down that road a little bit too often. And again, another good use of the strong wrist he has, and good solid control from John. Got Peter really on his bike at the moment.
Well, this is terrific stuff. Machine gun from both players. Now, that's an interesting one. Backswing.
Oh yeah, he definitely let the ball come to him, roll off, and Peter Nicol can let that ball roll as long as he wants, Robert. It's up to Jonathan Power to get out of his backswing. If he doesn't get out of the way, It's going to be a stroke every single time.
I can't go through. I call him left. I can't go through the ball. I'm right there.
Play on let, no let.
No let?
No, it's no let. Ball's too good.
7-5.
Well done, Fahim. Controlled that well. Jonathan gives the court another slight kick, moves it over a bit.
Well, there's been a lot of no lets, strokes. Lots of work for Fahim, and he's done extremely well. Very difficult guy to referee, John Power is. And on the flip side, Peter Nicol must be an absolute joy.
Yes, I think you just keep the score for Peter, don't you? 8-5 now in this third game. Peter Nicol 2-love up. Jonathan scurrying around, trying to ignite that fuse of his, that genius fuse he's got. But Peter Nicol, like a bucket of water on him. That ball's down.
9-5.
Clearly, Peter Nicol seems to be on cruise control at this moment. And I think it's there, but for the asking. Peter Nicol, 14-6. Looks like he's going to retain this title and continue the domination that he's had all year on the PSA Tour. And that ball's down. Peter Nicol retains his title. And for Jonathan Power, it's back to the drawing board.
Match to Nicol. 15-11, 15-10, 15-6.
I busted a couple sets of strings warming up, so then I didn't have any rackets, which is an absolute nightmare for any kind of a professional. And then, so I'm borrowing rackets from different players, and couldn't find my stroke, and got everything sort of going against me. I can't sort of can't sort of get into any rhythm, play my game. So I had just a nightmare day. It's the worst I think I've ever played, ever.
I think from the very start I controlled it. There were only a couple of occasions where Jonathan got on top and played well. But apart from that, I controlled him, stuck him in the back corners. My length and width was superb, and then from there dominated the whole game. So, yeah, I'm delighted with the way I played, more than just the win.
Well, once again, Peter Nicol picking up his Cathay Pacific trophy from Mr. James Barrington, the marketing director of the airline. Nicol increasing his bank account, increasing his world ranking points, but also increasing his high-tech Super Series points. Now clearing away at the top of the table. That's the top 8 at the moment who'll play off in the end-of-year Super Series final. And despite his form this year, Jonathan Power still in there at number 2. Akmabrada will have to put in a few hard matches to depose him.